I Love Lucy wasn't just a sitcom, it was the sitcom that changed television forever. It pulled in over 40 million viewers every week, beat entire networks in ratings, and turned Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz into global icons. Families planned their evenings around this show. It wasn't just entertainment, it was history happening in real time. But hidden behind the laughter were secrets, real marriage drama, studio battles, and one episode was so controversial that it was locked away. Join us as we uncover how this beloved sitcom ruled Hollywood, reveal the real stories behind the smiles, and finally expose the truth about the controversial episode. The sitcom that took over America. I Love Lucy is an American sitcom that aired on CBS from October 15, 1951 to May 6, 1957. It ran for 180 half-hour episodes across 6 seasons. The show starred Lucille Ball and her husband, Desi Arnaz, with Vivian Vance and William Frawley. The story follows Lucy Ricardo, a young middle-class housewife in New York City. She wants to be in show business, but her husband, Ricky Ricardo, is the band leader at a nightclub, and she is not part of the act. So Lucy makes plans with her best friends and landlords, Ethel and Fred Mertz, to sneak into the spotlight. Every scheme gets funnier and messier. The show became the most watched program in the United States in 4 of its 6 seasons. It was also the first show to end its run at the top of the Nielsen ratings. Even after it ended, the love for Lucy did not fade. A modified version returned as 13 one-hour specials from 1957 to 1960. It was first called The Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Show, and later in reruns, The Lucy Desi Comedy Hour. As of 2011, episodes have been seen in many languages around the world. About 40 million people in America still watch every year. In 2013, CBS aired a colorized Christmas episode in prime time. More than 8 million people tuned in 62 years after the show first began. The series was the first scripted program filmed on 35mm film in front of a live studio audience with cinematographer Carl Freund. It won 5 Emmy Awards and earned many honors. It is often called one of the most influential shows in TV history. In 2012, a survey by ABC News and People magazine voted it the best TV show of all time. In 2013, the Writers Guild of America ranked it number 12 on its list of the 101 best-written TV series. All this success came from big laughs on screen. But what was the story about? The apartment, the friends, and a plan that never stops. I Love Lucy begins in a New York City apartment building and keeps its story simple and warm. At the center is Lucy Ricardo, played by Lucille Ball, and her husband, Ricky Ricardo, played by Desi Arnaz. Their best friends and landlords, Fred Mertz and Ethel Mertz, live right down the hall. This small setup is the show's engine. Lucy wants to be in show business. Ricky leads a band and performs in a nightclub. Ethel and Fred know the stage from their vaudeville days. Put them together, and every day turns into a new scheme. Lucy tries to get into Ricky's act, or into any act, often with Ethel's help. Fred tries to keep things calm, or at least cheap. Ricky tries to keep order but ends up shaking his head. During the 2nd season, Lucy and Ricky have a son, Ricky Ricardo Jr., who everyone calls Little Ricky. The show times his birth with the real-life birth of Lucille Ball's son, Desi Arnaz Jr. So the story on screen echoes life off-screen. It is a neat trick that makes the audience feel close to the family. The home is cozy, the friendship is tight, and the stage is just out of reach for Lucy. That push and pull gives the show its heart. The set is not just walls. It is a place where dreams meet rules. The apartment holds laughter, love, and a lot of trouble. And each time Lucy tries again, we get pulled back into the game. Because the next plan always promises something bigger. Lucy's dream, her limits, and rare moments. Lucy is naive and bold at the same time. She wants stardom. She wants a spotlight, but the show keeps her talent small by design. She is often shown as tone-deaf and clumsy on stage. She blows notes. She misses cues. She plays glowworm on a saxophone and makes it wobble off key. Her timing for jokes is perfect, but her timing for music is not. This mismatch is the joke, and it works over and over because we believe her hunger is real. Still, the story gives her flashes of real skill. She can dance. She can sing when it counts. And sometimes the world notices. In the Season 1 episode, The Audition, she replaces an injured clown in Ricky's Tropicana act. For a moment, she is the star. Later, in Season 5's Lucy and the Dummy, she dances in Hollywood at a studio party with a rubber Ricky dummy as her partner. It is odd, but it works, and she gets attention again. These small wins keep hope alive. They tell us Lucy is not just a joke. She is a fighter with spark. The Mertz's vaudeville past only feeds her dream. If Ethel could sing, why not Lucy? If Fred could dance, why not Lucy? She feels left out, so she pushes harder. Each success hints that the next try might be the big one. Yet the show always pulls her back to earth. The fun is in the fall and the bounce, and that bounce keeps us watching. Because the next chance might be the one that sticks. Secrets, past lives, and the role she cannot escape. The show gives only small pieces of Lucy's backstory, and that mystery keeps her fresh. We learn she was born in Jamestown, New York, later noted as West Jamestown, and that she graduated from Jamestown High School. We hear her maiden name is McGillicuddy. That hint suggests Scottish or Irish roots on her father's side, though she once says her grandmother was Swedish. We hear she met Ricky on a cruise while with a friend from an agency where she once worked. Her family barely appears, except for her scatterbrained mother, Mrs. McGillicuddy, who shows up now and then and never gets Ricky's name right. Lucy keeps her age quiet and her true hair color a secret. She loves shopping a bit too much. She buys new dresses and hats for every occasion. She tells old friends that she and Ricky are wealthy, even when that is a stretch. At the same time, she is devoted at home. She is a caring wife, a steady cook, and an attentive mother. The post-war world expects her to stay in the domestic lane, so she does. When she takes jobs outside the home, the show paints her as inept and out of place. That is the point. The joke is that the stage calls her, but the kitchen pulls her back. It is a tight box, and the show uses that box to create stakes. If she cannot change the rules, can she bend them? If she cannot own the stage, can she sneak onto it? The tension between duty and dream is the fuse, and that fuse keeps burning into the next setup. Ricky's heat and the myth. Ricky Ricardo is an up-and-coming Cuban-American singer and band leader with fire in his voice and a club to run. He is patient, but Lucy's stunts test him. When the mess gets big, he slips into rapid Spanish. It is his way to vent and to show who he is. The show keeps his past light, too. His mother appears in 2 episodes. In another, Lucy mentions he has 5 brothers. He says he was practically raised by his uncle Alberto. He studied at the University of Havana. People often repeat a line, "Lucy, you got some splaining to do." Or, "Lucy, you got a lot of splainin' to do." It is printed on merch and still mentioned in articles. But he never says this phrase in any episode. That myth sticks because it feels like him. It sounds like the moment after a scheme explodes. The show even tries to fill in how Lucy and Ricky met. In a 1957 episode of the Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz show called Lucy Takes a Cruise to Havana, an extended flashback shows their story. They meet in Havana in 1940 when Lucy and the Mertzes vacation there. He is said to be a university graduate with strong English, yet he is driving a horse-drawn cab at the pier. Lucy meets popular singer Rudy Vallee on the ship and sets an audition for Ricky. He gets hired for Vallee's orchestra and emigrates to the United States on the same ship the friends are taking home. Later, Lucy says Ricky played for Valet only one night before moving to Xavier Cugat's orchestra. But this flashback conflicts with a detail in the Season 4 episode Don Juan and the Starlets. In that episode, Lucy says she once said yes to a blind date with a Cuban drummer set up by her friend Marian Strong. Two origin stories, one couple, and a wink from the writers. Around them, Ethel and Fred round out the world. Ethel is a former singer and actress from Albuquerque, and Ricky often includes her in performances because she can sing and dance well. Fred is a World War I veteran who lived through the Great Depression. He is stingy, quick to grumble, but soft with little Ricky, where he is both godfather and honorary uncle. He can sing and dance too, and he often performs duets with Ethel. The four live first at a fictional 623 East 68th Street. Apartment 4A, then 3B, later remarked 3D with the Mertzes in 3B, on the Upper East Side. In real life, that address range stops in the 500s before the street hits the East River. The set blooms beyond the map. It is not meant to be exact. It is meant to be home. And from that home, every laugh grows. And every secret waits for its turn in the light. But behind the scenes, there were bold choices and tense moments that kept the show on a knife edge. And that is where the real story starts. Love, casting, and a fight with the network. Desi Arnaz was a popular musician, but his move into acting was hard. His Cuban accent and ethnic identity made studios unsure. Lucille Ball had already found success with a radio program called My Favorite Husband in the late 1940s. It later became a TV sitcom in 1953, but Lucille did not star in that TV version. CBS still offered Lucille a sitcom. She said she would only do it if her real husband, Desi, could play her husband on screen. The studio pushed back. They believed his accent was too thick. They feared 1950s audiences would not accept a foreign-born lead. Lucille and Desi did not give up. In 1950, they created a club act and toured the country. The crowds loved them. The shows won over CBS. The network agreed to greenlight a series with the couple. Casting the neighbors brought new stress. Lucille wanted Bea Benaderet and Gail Gordon for Ethel and Fred Mertz, but schedules did not work. James Gleason was another favorite, but he was too expensive. William Frawley heard about the role and called Lucille and Desi himself. He was 64. CBS did not like the idea. They worried he was an unreliable alcoholic. But Lucille, Desi, and producer Jess Oppenheimer fought for him. Desi later said, "He never missed a day's work, nor was he even a few minutes late during all the years he was with us." That line tells you a lot. On paper, he looked like a risk. On set, he was rock solid. The cast was set, the show was ready, and America was waiting. Still, the toughest tests were not over. The real heat would come from inside the studio and even inside the marriage. Fights, gags, and a scary moment. On screen, the Mertzes teased each other and backed the Ricardos' wild plans. Off-screen, Vivian Vance and William Frawley clashed. The jokes between their characters were sharp. The words between the actors could be sharper. Vance reportedly called Frawley an old poop. Frawley is said to have fired back with old fat ass and bitch. There was even talk of a spin-off after the show ended. Some said Vance refused to do it because she would not work with Frawley again. Others said the media made the feud larger than it was. Maybe it was a love-hate bond. Maybe it was two strong people stuck together by history. Either way, their on-screen timing helped the show shine. While the cast navigated real tension, Lucille Ball pushed herself in risky scenes. One famous episode is Lucy's Italian Movie. Lucy climbs into a vat and stomps grapes with local women. The bit looks playful and light, but according to producer Jess Oppenheimer, the scene was unscripted. During filming, Lucy began to fight with one of the women, opera singer Teresa Tirelli D'Amico. Lucy said D'Amico almost drowned her. Grapes went up her nose while the cameras rolled. It reads like a slapstick moment. It was actually dangerous. The show often turned real pressure into real laughs. That mix gave the comedy its spark. Lucy's hardest scene. Lucille Ball was brave and brilliant, but she was not a freestyle performer. She liked precision. She feared forgetting lines. That fear shows up in one of the most famous episodes. Lucy does a commercial. In it, Lucy becomes an ad girl for a tonic called Vita Meata Vegamin. The fake medicine has 23% alcohol. As the scene goes on, Lucy gets drunk. Ball had to slur words and say nonsense lines on cue. It looks loose and wild on screen. Behind the scenes, it was hard work that she did not enjoy. She had to memorize garbled words and odd sounds. Oppenheimer noted she was a comedian, not an improviser. The result is TV magic people still quote, but Ball herself found it stressful, and it became one of her least favorite episodes to make. The stress was not only about words. Life also forced the show to get creative. In 1953, after Ball gave birth, the studio faced a problem. The sponsor, Philip Morris, wanted weekly episodes, but production had to slow down. The fix changed TV forever. They replayed earlier episodes. Those reruns worked because the show was shot on high-quality 35mm film instead of the usual 16mm. The image looked crisp, even on repeat. To make that happen, the Arnazes took a pay cut so the show could use better film. It paid off later. When they sold the finished episodes, building the idea of syndication and reruns, they made $5 million. The rerun solution also gave the couple time with their new baby. So a private moment at home led to a new habit on TV screens everywhere. A tough shoot and a smart pivot. Both moments show how the team mixed pressure with invention. But the biggest shift came when the network asked the Arnazes to pack their lives and move. And they said no. Shocking secrets. When Philip Morris funded the show, CBS wanted the Arnazes to move to New York. The story was set there, so the network thought they should film there. Lucille Ball was clear about how she felt. If I had to go to New York to do television, I'd stay here and do pictures instead. Los Angeles was home and the heart of the industry, so the team found a new path. They used a 3-camera method first tried by producer Jerry Fairbanks. Al Simon improved the technology. The Arnazes taped the show live in Los Angeles, then sent the higher-quality 35mm film to New York. Some people like to say Desi invented the 3-camera system. The story is bigger than that, but I Love Lucy became one of its most famous success stories. That choice kept the family in Los Angeles and kept the show sharp. Technology solved a location problem and raised the bar for sitcoms. Off-screen, other problems were not as easy to fix. Viewers thought Fred and Ethel were a real couple because Lucy and Ricky were married in real life. Vivian Vance did not like that. The age gap between her and William Frawley made public comments sting. People greeted them as Fred and Ethel and treated them like husband and wife on the street. Vance reportedly called Frawley an old man. He fired back with lines he wanted Fred to say on air, including that Ethel had a figure like a sack full of doorknobs. The insults were big. The distance between them grew, and while the feud fed their on-screen bite, it also showed how fame can twist a working partnership. Then came a story that hit at the marriage at the center of the show. Scotty Bowers wrote in his book that Desi Arnaz had a healthy heterosexual appetite. He said Desi often called him for girls and tipped generously. According to the same account, Lucille Ball knew about Bowers and confronted him at a party. She slapped him and shouted, You stop pimping for my husband, ye hear." Bowers said he did not hold it against her and added, "Nobody ever messed around with Lucille. Her temper equaled her charm. It is a raw moment that shows Lucy's fire and control. It also shows how the public face of the Ricardos, loving, funny, stable, hid real strain. The set stayed bright. The laughs kept coming, but the personal cost sat right behind the camera, and that cost shadowed every choice, every rule, and every big step the show took next. The episode that almost vanished. Lucy is on Santa aired in 1952 and changed television, but it almost never made it to the screen. It was the first big TV episode to show a pregnant woman, and even the title used a softer French word for pregnant to keep things safe. At first, advertisers pushed back hard. They worried viewers would be offended because a pregnancy on TV reminded people how babies are made. Lucille and Desi Arnaz feared the show would be paused or even canceled. Producer Jess Oppenheimer fought for a gentle family tone and asked to weave the real pregnancy into the story. The show was a mega hit, so the network and sponsors finally gave in. That approval did not come easy. Every script draft had to be checked by a priest, a rabbi, and a minister. The rules stayed strict. The writers could not even use the word pregnant. Characters said expecting or something similar. The title itself, Lucy is on Santa, was a quiet wink because the banned word could not be spoken. The tension was real, yet the team kept going because they knew the audience cared about Lucy and Ricky's life. What seemed small, a family having a baby, felt huge on 1950s TV. It was a risk that could have sunk the show, but the gamble set up one of the most loved scenes in sitcom history. And that scene carried real tears. A song, real tears, and rules about beds and words. The final scene of the episode is simple and powerful. Ricky is singing at the Tropicana when an anonymous note reaches him from a woman in the crowd. It says she and her husband are about to have a blessed event, and she wants him to sing, "We're having a baby, my baby and me." Ricky walks through the audience trying to find who wrote it. He reaches Lucy's table and realizes the truth. She is the mom-to-be. They hug and cry. The emotion you see is not acting alone. Lucille and Desi were truly moved. Their real life and their TV life met in that moment, and the audience felt it. But even with that warm ending, strict TV rules stayed in place. Lucy and Ricky did not share a bed on screen. Networks were so nervous about how pregnancy linked to intimacy that the couple's bedroom had twin beds. The control went further. The word pregnant was still off-limits in dialogue. That is why the team hid behind gentle words like expecting, and why the title used French instead. The censorship was heavy, yet the story still got through because it was told with care and heart. The writers followed every rule and still made history. The episode opened a door, but the team also had to plan how to walk through it in the weeks ahead. And that meant showing a real pregnancy unfold on screen without breaking those same rules. After Lucy is on Santa, the show kept the story going for 6 more episodes as Lucy's belly grew on screen. It ended with Lucy goes to the hospital, where she gives birth to little Ricky. Lucy's real pregnancy moved in step with the TV story. The on-screen baby and Lucille Ball's baby arrived the same day. She had a C-section, which let the team match the air date, and the baby's gender match too, which felt like a happy surprise. Desi even joked to writer-producer Jess Oppenheimer, "Lucy followed your script. Ain't she something?" The audience response was huge. More than 44 million people watched the birth episode. On January 19, 1953, 71.7% of homes with TVs tuned in to Lucy Goes to the Hospital. The next day, 67.7% watched President Dwight Eisenhower's inauguration. Years later, Lucille Ball said, when she and her son met Eisenhower, he asked, "Is that the young man who knocked me off the front pages?" That line says it all. America picked Lucy's baby over the new president for one night. Even so, the show still had to hide how far along Lucille was while filming. She wore capes and loose coats to downplay her bump. One critic joked, "No woman who was not pregnant would wear the cone-shaped coat she used. The word pregnant never appeared in dialogue, but it did show up in the show's printed episode guide. The very next episode after Lucy is enceinte was titled Pregnant Women Are Unpredictable, even though titles did not appear on screen back then. Some people say I Love Lucy was the first TV pregnancy, but an earlier show, Mary Kay and Johnny, did it in 1948. That one caused less noise because TV was tiny at the time, with only about 35,000 sets. By 1952, more than 15 million homes had TVs, so sponsors felt more risk. The size of the audience made every rule tighter, every step harder, and the biggest shock was how the show turned those limits into momentum the whole country could feel. Fears, refusals, a banned word, and a banned trip. The pregnancy fight was not the first time Lucy faced the network and the sponsor. When Lucille Ball first shaped I Love Lucy, she wanted her real husband, Desi Arnaz, to play her TV husband. CBS and Philip Morris were nervous about that casting because it put an interracial marriage at the center of a primetime sitcom. Ball stood firm, and the show's success proved the fear was misplaced. Even with wins like that, the team still had to work around the tiniest details once Lucy is enceinte began. Words were policed. Wardrobe was designed to hide the bump. Scripts had to pass 3 faith leaders before they could shoot. But the payoff stayed massive. The television pregnancy felt human, sweet, and safe enough to calm the people who worried most. That balance between courage and caution turned into a new standard for family TV. And the audience kept following the Ricardos through every twist, even when real politics touched the show. Moving on, there was one later chapter that pulled an episode off the air for a while. In the 1960s, networks stopped airing the final season episode, The Ricardos Visit Cuba. The reason was not the story itself, but the times. The United States and Cuba had a strained relationship then, and the setting made the episode too sensitive. It was a rare case where a light sitcom ran into a dark world issue and had to step back. The show had already survived the pregnancy storm and the sponsor fight. It had taught TV how to tell a private story on a public screen. Now it met a different kind of limit, a political one. The pattern is clear. I Love Lucy kept crossing lines that others avoided, but it did it with care, charm, and precision. It never said pregnant out loud, but it showed love and family in a way people understood. It never stopped being funny, even when the rules were heavy. And it kept one promise through everything, that the Ricardos would make it through the tension together, no matter the risk still to come. What is your favorite I Love Lucy moment? And what behind-the-scenes fact changed how you see it? And which part shocked you more? The pregnancy rules or the banned Cuba episode, and why? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.